Amy Tarkanian. She's a Republican strategist. She's a former chair of the Nevada Republican Party, now based in Las Vegas. Good morning to you, or very late night to you, Amy.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I was going to say this is an extraordinary case, but of course nothing's extraordinary when it comes to Donald Trump. Numerous women came forward back in 2016 to claim they'd been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed by him. We've known about this case, this claim from Jean Carroll for many, many years. And crucially, the thing about this case, it's not a criminal case. It's a civil case brought by her fundamentally as a defamation case. She said he'd assaulted her and raped her and assaulted her. He says, I don't know who, as we heard in that, don't know who she is, never happened, she's a liar. And so she's sued him for defamation. And a lot of those damages she's got, the $5 million, £4 million, is actually for defaming her, for telling lies about her. But, I mean, is this extraordinary enough that it could derail Donald Trump's chances to get re-elected as president?
I don't believe so. And the fact being that I wish that they had actually moved this hearing to another location, because then it would maybe give it more validity in the eyes of his supporters. And so now they are jumping on board with him, calling this a witch hunt. And so they're going to believe everything that he says, whether if it was true or not true. They think this whole thing is unfair, that the location wasn't fair, and the fact that it's hard to find even an impartial juror in this area. And so, you know, it's unfortunate that they chose to keep it here in New York because, you know, I mean, it's 27 years old, according to when this unfortunate situation took place. But the president does get himself into trouble constantly by talking too much, by posting horrendous and vile comments on his social media platform, Truth Social. And so, you know, to defame her when she's claiming these accusations probably wasn't the wisest.
No, indeed. And again, he's constantly used legal action against people when they make claims against him. So, you know, he's just, you know, hoist by his own petard. But this is the thing, a lot of people, even if it wasn't a famous person involved, a lot of people would question, why are people bringing charges so much later? Very difficult, certainly to get. You couldn't get a criminal conviction unless there was extraordinary evidence in that sort of scenario, and hence the civil case. This is the issue, isn't it? They're kind of playing into his whole victim persona. It's fascinating because he has this weird, strange sort of double act of he is sort of, you know, he's the greatest, the only person who can make America great again. You know, he's the guy, and yet also a victim of all the time of these awful establishment and you know, Democrat and liberal causes. But I mean, the reality is his base is going to believe him and not her, or the court, anything that you say that happens in New York. But the base is going to be crucial for winning the Republican nomination. But the base isn't enough. As we know from the 2020 election, the base isn't enough to win over enough floating voters, the voters who do decide elections in America in all, you know, those key battleground states, to deliver him the presidency, because it wasn't enough last time. We know even more about him now. Do you think that means that he's very likely to win the Republican nomination, but that he won't win the presidency?
Yes, I would actually agree with that assessment. And, you know, once again, you've got his base questioning the timing of all of this, and it seems to be politically motivated. And so whether if this actually took place or didn't take place, it's the timing that people put into question. And so when you go onto social media, for example, I went on to Twitter right before coming on here and looked at your account, at the TalkTV account, and you will see the majority of people responding, saying the exact same thing, questioning the timing of the scenario. And so you've already got people who've made up their mind, whether if they're pro-Trump or anti-Trump. All this does is just add more fuel to the fire for either you to dislike him even more, or for you to actually jump on the victim bandwagon.
And that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Everyone has made up their mind already. But there's quite a lot of polling in the States showing that a lot of people, they don't think, it's not like they think, I believe everything he says, I think he's a great person, and I'm going to vote for him no matter what. They know what he is. They know who he is. They know all his failings and more than failings. But they still say, but I'd still rather vote for him than vote for Biden, vote for the Democrats, vote for an awful lot of, you know, their policies and the identity stuff and a lot of the other stuff that they are associated with. And I've got to be honest with you, I can understand a lot of that. A lot of the votes, and indeed votes for the Democrats for Biden, I think last time around was sort of anti-Trump votes rather than pro-Biden or pro-Democrat votes. And I think in a lot of cases, the votes for Republican candidates are anti the Democrats. The thing is, the American people aren't being offered something in between. A lot of people thought that Biden was going to be the in-between in 2020, and he's not been.
No, that is correct. In fact, in the state of Nevada, the largest and fastest growing party affiliation is third party. So your nonpartisans and independents. And then right behind that, you have Democrats, and then Republicans are trailing. And, you know, so you've seen a number of folks who have said, I don't feel like I have a home anymore politically. And so they want to go towards the middle, and maybe they want to do a split ticket because, you know, this is an area where Donald Trump is able to capitalize on emotions, where you see Republicans who have been upset for so long feeling that the justice system isn't fair. You know, they see, you mentioned Biden, you know, Biden's under the microscope finally, but it seems like it's been taking forever on a number of issues, and there's very little movement. And yet you see for President Trump, things happen in the blink of an eye quite quickly.
Yeah. We were discussing
piling up.
Yeah, my guest Benedict Spencer and I were discussing earlier that if actually some of the allegations that have been made against Biden, the Biden family, in terms of finances, and there's millions just sloshing about that are unaccounted for, that actually if you described all this case to a Democrat and then you said it was about Trump, they would say this is an outrage. This person is totally unfit for office. And yet, free pass. And that's the thing, I think, for a lot of Americans. And we have very low turnouts, even at presidential elections and American elections, where people are just sort of, you know, a plague on all your houses. You're all awful. You know, hundreds of millions of people in this country, and that's the best we can do. Two old men, both of whom, frankly, I would regard as unfit for office for different reasons. And yet it does look like Donald Trump, you know, tried and tested, is going to be back. Is the Republican Party, you know, you're a former, you know, Republican strategist, you're a former chair of the Nevada Republican Party. Is the Republican leadership, are they sort of, you know, tearing their hair out over how they can make sure that Donald Trump isn't their candidate? And if so, are they doing that because they think he won't win or because they think he's unsuited for office? What's their issue with him?
I would probably have to guess it'd be all the above.
Right.
And so if you're going to hear if
they thought he would win, they'd be happy.
Sure. And you wouldn't hear the RNC chair, you know, saying comments like, I need to remain neutral, even though as the chair, you should remain neutral. But she's very, very quick to respond that she needs to remain neutral, and doesn't offer much praise in his direction. And you'll also see, if you turn on American television, the very same thing happens with even the more right-leaning pundits and commentators. People are trying to walk a fine line. They really don't want to see him run again. And but it does look like, according to polls, that he is in the lead, and in a far lead by more than 30 points in some polls. And then next would be Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida. And so they're trying to do a really good job at tearing him down as well, to make sure that he's not the nominee. And President Trump's pact has been relentless on attacking his character.
Yeah, absolutely. And huge sums of money are swilling about, aren't they? Amy Tarkanian, really appreciate you joining us, a Republican strategist there.